All right. Welcome back, man. We are here on our second episode of the Oracle Insurance Podcast. And me and Will, we just been going back and forth kind of chatting about, man, how do we provide massive amounts of value for the people that are going to watch that? You talked about it a little bit on the first episode, and you said, man, insurance is a little boring, right? Yeah. And so we just got some introductory stuff out. Obviously, we want to educate people about how we can help them out and what we do and all of that. But a big thing is like, how do we just provide value to the different people that are going to watch that? And so today, man, I'm so excited. I'm just going to be asking you a little bit about things you wish you knew when you started a business, right? And so first off, again, my name's Luke Relfs, and I got Will Stephanie here, the CEO of Oracle Insurance. And we're just going to be breaking down and going through the process of your business, things you wish you knew. I'm a young person. I'm only 24. And so I love asking people that are wiser than I and have been there, done it, and have been successful in their different ventures of like, how did you get to where you're at? What are things you wish you knew when you were 20 something? You know what I mean? And so we're going to get into all of that. And so first off, we talked about it a little bit on the first podcast, but just give us an overview again of kind of the whole start of everything. Like as much as you want to share about, you know, what you did early on, how you got into starting a business, how you worked for other companies, but then started your own thing. So just give me a little bit of background on where you came from and what that all looked like.
You bet. Yeah. You know, so I went into business for myself when I was 25 years old.
Dang.
So close to your age right now. And, you know, at that time we had one child. He was about 1 year. He was one year old. So, getting into it, I just always I was working in insurance, working for an insurance company, and, just traveling a ton, knowing that if I wanted to move up, it meant I had to give up more time with my family, more time on the road. So it was going a different direction that I wanted to go. It was great, you know, experience that I had with these companies and stuff. So, but just realized like, man, I just want to kind of set my own schedule, work for myself, wake up in the morning and say, hey, if my day wasn't successful, and I had to look in the mirror and say, hey, that's because of what I did. So that was kind of the thing that got me interested in it. And then, and then started an agency with Allstate Insurance to get started, which was good. But yeah, to your point of the things I wish I would have known when I started my first business, now looking back, that's a lot of stuff. But yeah, there's some core things that you can start with that really get you on the right path. And now, you know, where I'm at 20 some years later, you know, it's been a roller coaster of a ride, which if you ask any business owner, they would tell you that. And, but it's been good, you know, as long as you look back on the things you did wrong and learn from them, just like everything in life, right? You got to learn from your mistakes and I think really having a good compass of where you want to be and who you want to be is a key thing to starting out a business, because you get tested. You get tested a lot because it can be, like I said, a roller coaster up and down. So really having some core things to look back on. There's some big things that you can do to avoid some big potholes.
Right. Yeah. So start us off. What would be one of the first things you would say, and we don't have to do it in the list of 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 of maybe most important to least important. They're all kind of equally important. But if it was like the one thing you could tell the viewers of, like, if you don't remember anything else from this podcast, this is the one overarching thing that I wish I remembered, what would be like the number one thing? And then we'll work through there.
Man, I would say really at the beginning of your business, this is something that took me a while to really define, is having your core purpose of your business. You know, I think a lot of people like me, when I started my business initially, my first business, it was, I want to make money.
Right.
That's not, you know, if money's your key purpose in business or in life, and you're always going to come up empty, because when do you have enough of it, right?
Right.
So having a clear vision and purpose of where you are, clear core values. I know those are terms that get thrown out a lot in business, but they are key to know every time you make a decision, is that the right decision based on what you believe your purpose in your business is? So if it's money, you're going to make some stupid decisions because you're going to be chasing dollars.
Wow.
And but if your goal, you know, like for us, is to be the calm in everybody's storm. So Whether that's, they got hit by a storm the night before and they need help getting their claim done, getting their house fixed up, or whether it's, man, they're just having a bad day. Everybody's stretched right now financially with inflation and stuff. So maybe they're just calling in, they just venting to us about their bill. It's nothing personal. It's just, man, that's their storm right now, is that they're financially in a tight spot. So, that's our core value, is to make sure that we're just taking care of people, loving on people, unified team, getting to know our clients. So everything we do, we focus on that as, hey, is that aligning with what our purpose in our business is?
Yeah, that's good.
So I think that's a huge thing too. It also goes into hiring. So, when I started my business and, I brought some people on that I didn't define my core values yet, but I knew them in the back of my head.
Yeah.
That's a lot of owners they'll know it, but they maybe don't express it properly. So that's, a good thing too. Make sure your employees know what your purpose is. But, in hiring people, it can be huge, because if you're hiring somebody that doesn't fit your core values, you're not going to be able to fulfill your core values.
Yeah.
And so that was a struggle I had, because I had some individuals here that didn't fit that, and not to their fault, I didn't probably express it properly to them and sell them. As a leader, Craig Rochelle just had an awesome podcast last week that's just on leading and having faith in your vision, and that way you can pour out your vision. Because if you don't believe in your vision, you can't sell it to your employees, you can't sell it to your clients. So you really got to believe in that vision and stay true to it. You may make some minor adjustments, but as long as you got that alignment, same thing like us in life, right? Walking in faith with Jesus, like we know, like, hey, if we're off track, we turn to Him, turn to the Word, and like that's what we're supposed to be. That's who we're supposed to aim to be like. So that's our compass, right? You have that same thing in your business. So
nice. That's awesome, bro. Talk a little more. You started getting into it some. Talk a little more about the money aspect and maybe how you overcame that, and how you kind of pointed your compass in a different direction of being like, hey, this is where I want to go. Yes, money is important in a way, and you want to provide well for your family, be generous, help people out. But what was it that was kind of the turning point for you? Because I think a lot of people probably are pretty focused on money, and they hear that and they're like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like in a way there's nothing wrong with that, but exactly like the Bible talks about, a lot of people get that verse twisted, actually thinking money is the root of all evil. It's not. It's the love of money, right?
Yeah.
And so talk a bit about that, and then we'll keep going through some of these others that we have on the list of just, core things that you wish you knew when you were younger starting your business. But talk a bit about that of how did you kind of shift your mindset from being focused on that?
Yeah, it probably just, it happened because of many mistakes and many things that came up that were a result of me making the decision because I could maybe make money off of it, like just doing a business deal and being like, this is going to make us a lot of money, but it wasn't the right thing to do, or, and then it ends up costing you. So I think over time you make mistakes because you made decisions out of the wrong heart posture, really. And again, it wasn't for the money. It was because, man, I'd love to have a lot more of it, right? You think that's going to solve your problems. But really, you're just kind of struggling, going through like a, growth, because as you go through business too, you come to plateaus and you have to, make decisions as you grow to, spend more money when it may be tight. But as long as you know what your core purpose and you have a plan, and again, to your point, money's not bad.
Yeah.
It's making that, putting that on the throne, but, making decisions based on your purpose and over money and make it just a huge difference in maybe the peace that you have in it. Because like I said, if you got to spend some money to grow when you hit those plateaus and hire more people, and if you're what you got in your checking account, which is important, which is budgeting and being a good steward of God's finances and stuff, but it can create a stress if you don't have faith in what your vision is. So it just can put a lot of stress on you in that aspect.
Nice, dude. That's so good. So what's another thing? Again, it doesn't have to be in this list 1 through 5, 1 through 6 of like most important to least important, but just another thing, man, I wish I knew this thing when I was starting out.
Yeah. Man, one thing I would say, the hard thing when you're starting out is you have no money.
Right.
So, again, it's not the love of money, but it is nice to have some, because when you're starting out, you have to. So for me, I think anything, I'll say this, and we can probably talk about this more, but the biggest thing is to have humility and to humble yourself. You're not. It's hard to do it all on your own, so you got to really depend on others. And depending on others, also could be, when you're starting out, like I said, you don't have a lot of money. Legal fees are very expensive. So it's, like for me, when I started out, like with contracts and all that kind of stuff, I didn't have the money to go to a lawyer, to have them draft it up. Cause maybe $4,000 or $5,000 to have them do it. It's like, well, maybe I can get by with this. Also like an accountant, bookkeeper, those are things that as a small business owner, you wear a lot of different hats. It maybe isn't the best idea to wear all the hats because you may not be very good at it, right? Like I don't like accounting. So I'm trying to get somebody in that seat to take that over. I have a bookkeeper that helps with that, I have a good accountant. But at the beginning when you're starting, like you gotta, we focus on growing the business so much that sometimes you disregard some of the very important stuff, like having a good lawyer, just having those professionals in your corner to help just guide you. Doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money with them, but it is good to sit down with somebody. We do insurance. It's good to sit down with an insurance agent and say, hey, here's where I'm at now. Here's where I want to go. What are things I need to think about in that process? Same thing with a lawyer, an accountant, your trust attorney, all those kind of things. Because especially as you bring employees on, if something were to happen to you as the business owner, what's going to happen to the business? What's going to happen to your employees? How's things going to keep operating? So you really have to start thinking of not today and tomorrow, but down the road, what are things, as a business owner, we need to think about, and having those key guys in your corner is a huge thing. And again, being humble through the process as you make mistakes, and you will make a ton of mistakes. My brother-in-law, he is also in insurance, has a business right across the parking lot from us here. And he was my first employee. So when he started, he got to see all the mistakes I made. So when he started his agency, he already knew some roadblocks and things to avoid.
Right.
So, luckily he got to learn through my pain of, hey, don't do what Will did on that one. But I think that's another thing that it leads into is, man, to have a good peer group of business owners that, in our faith journey, we say have a Paul, Barnabas, and a Timothy, somebody that's pouring into you, somebody that you can walk through life with, that's in the same kind of position, and somebody that you can pour into, like I'm, kind of doing with you right now. Yeah. So it's good to have a peer group of people that you can go to. Like I was in part of a group called EO that was just a bunch of very successful business owners. And the best part about that group, and there's a bunch of different groups like that out there, the best part of that group was these guys that were selling their businesses for millions and millions of dollars and super successful, to have them sit down and be like, man, my first mistake was this. And they tell you, and you're like, wow, they made mistakes too. Yeah. Wow. And they're still here. So they still got to where they wanted to go. But it's having those guys to bounce ideas off of. So say you got an idea that you want to maybe take to market. Well, go talk to those peer groups and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. And they may give you little nuggets that be like, hey, do you think about this? Do you think about that? To make you really go into it with a little bit more knowledge and thought of what are things and obstacles that you may come into. So then also to have guys in the same stage as you. Like I was just at a meeting with a bunch of agents from across the nation with one of our carriers, and it was just great talking to all these agents, about what they're doing, what they're struggling with, and we all have the same issues, but to hear how others are, approaching it to try to conquer those things is huge. So, just having good peer groups, and I always got my guys in my men's Bible study group. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's great. So your dad's in one with me, right? So, it's awesome. And that one's like an executive group. So it's a bunch of business owners or very high up leaders in their organizations. And it's just great to hear, get their perspective on things. We talk about, the Bible, but we also talk about things on the work related on, hey, what should we do here? How can we pray for each other? So having that group, and then my Wednesday men's group is just a great bunch of guys like, hey, I'm struggling with this, I'm stressed out because this is going on at work, and just getting their knowledge and stuff. So being surrounded, we talk about it at our church a lot, right? Just being surrounded with good people that are going to lift you up on those times when you're down. That's such a big thing to have, especially in business, and especially when you're starting a business, because you got a lot of days where you need to be lifted up and encouraged. So it's good to have that peer group around you to do that.
Yeah, that's so good, dude. What was the time frame maybe? Was that something you always had pretty early on, or what were maybe some of the pitfalls or things you had to go through to get to that point where you were like, I need to be around some people. I can't do it on my own. Like where was the line of I wasn't doing that and then I was, and what were the advantages and disadvantages on either side?
Yeah. When I look back, we did this exercise at Life Church called Kazone. It's about finding your purpose in life and what you're supposed to do. And this is kind of one thing that this came up to be my purpose, is helping young guys get started in their walk in life and in business and stuff. But looking back at it, it's interesting you bring that up, is because I noticed that there was always, I'll just say, old dude in my life. My dad, and I lost him about 7 years ago. But then, my football coach in high school, and then when I first got in insurance, there was this guy that was when I was with Aflac, that was my manager, and man, we just connected. And he passed away, as well. And then when I started all my businesses here, my accountant, who was also my attorney that set up all my corporations, man, he just poured into me with advice and stuff. And unfortunately he passed away. And, so I've had all these guys in my life, that looking back, I didn't notice that they were just like buddies and friends, but they were mentoring me in different ways and teaching me how to lead, teaching me how to, just be better in all aspects of business. So I think, I've had that, but I think starting business and getting into those groups, and then sometimes getting out of them, and then realizing like, man, I really needed that. So like I was saying, I was in that group EO. I did that for a couple, 2-3 years, and it was good. Again, my business, I wasn't focused on the right things, right? My purpose wasn't clearly defined. So I got out of it. And then recently when I came to my faith, that's kind of one of the things changed. And I realized like, man, as men, we're very prideful, right? We don't like asking for directions because we like figuring it out on our own. But man, you start realizing like we can't do this on our own. We can't do this in our own power. So man, God puts people around us for that exact purpose to get us, just to be better. And so I started to notice like, hey man, I need help. So I've joined a Christian men's group now. It's business owners. Have like I said, my Monday morning men's group is all business owners. Yeah. And then just, asking for help when you need it. That's the one thing I've noticed, like, hey, I don't have all the answers, and nor do I want to. So,
right.
It's good to ask for help. And I just realized that over the years, like, man, it's, that's another thing too, is knowing what your key strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And that's one thing that I've realized over my time. I'm a visionary guy, so I'm always wondering about what we can do different and trying to invent things to solve that. So if a great tool is Working Genius from Patrick Lencioni. Yeah. And that kind of helps define what your working genius is. And so doing that, now I know I don't think of myself as this crazy guy that's always coming up with these crazy ideas. Now I kind of know like that's who I am. But what are my weaknesses, and who do I need to surround myself with to help take care of those weaknesses? And that's been huge, first of all, for my own personal comfort and knowing who I am, but then knowing who's on my team and who I can call on to help on those things that I don't like to do or I'm not good at doing. Yeah. So again, that comes back to that humility part, knowing what you're good at, what you're not at, and just fessing up to it. So
awesome. One thing I feel like I'm struggling with, that maybe a lot of young people, maybe young business owners, whatever it is just kind of depending on where you work, there may be a strict schedule of this is what you do during the time that you're there, XYZ. But I'd be interested to know, I don't know if this is even really a part of your deal, but just talk to us about what did you learn through, the 20, 30 years of doing this scheduling wise? Like, how did you learn and go through the process of managing your time better, managing maybe you don't have to get into finances a lot, it's kind of with it, but just scheduling of like when you're waking up, when you're going to bed, what you allow yourself to do or not to do for relaxation, TV watching, this, you know what I mean? Different things that is like, is this a waste of time? Is it good to relax sometimes? Like, how do you balance work life, but also how have you grown in your scheduling? I think as people get older, they typically wake up a little earlier. They start realizing life isn't forever, right? Life is short, and I want to maximize the amount of time I have to get things done and to help people out and to provide value within a day. So talk a little bit about what you've learned through the last, especially 20 so years or whatnot of being a business owner as far as scheduling goes.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and that's definitely one you learn through the process. Like starting out for me, like when I started my first business, like I said, at 25, I had one young kid, was coming out of a job that paid very well, and going to where I didn't get paid for wasn't able to pay myself anything really for the first 6 months because everything had to go back into it. So that I think for me, when I started out, I had to work because I had to pay bills. So my schedule became, I was at the office at 6 a.m. till 8 p.m.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that's good because you have to have a good work-life balance, or what are you working for? So I, at first was pouring a ton of time in, and and you got to do that.
Right.
You're going to have to work hard for very little reward when you start something out.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what, society, maybe some younger people are, being told they're going to come out of college and get a job that's just grand, pays well. And
right.
It doesn't always work out that way, especially in today's economy. So, figuring that balance out, I think, one big thing that we've really been focused on here as well too is, making sure what you are spending your time on are those rewarding things, are those core things that you need to get done. It's easy to take the big things that you got to get done and put them on the back burner. But if you're spending all your time on these little things, all this busy work, really, Craig Rochelle's, I would highly recommend checking out his leadership podcast because he's got a ton of nuggets, got a ton of great speakers that come on. But like one of the things he said in his most recent book is, he sets his schedule the night before. So he knows what he's got to attack the next day. Yeah. When I started, I hated Sundays because I knew the chaos that I didn't complete the week before was all going to hit me on Monday morning. So, that was, that was all my own fault because of who I am. But knowing what you got to do, setting some rocks, if you want to call it that. We use the EOS, the traction model here for our business. And since we've implemented that, and our implementer's awesome, CJ's a great dude. But having that on how to set goals, how to set KPIs, key performance indicators to make sure everybody in your office, and we're still improving that all the time. But to have those goals set up, have those rocks, okay, well, here's what we have to accomplish. Here are our core things that we got to do. Keeps you focused because that's, the people that start a business too, that's what you'll find. We have some agents that work from home, some agents that work here in the office. I could never work from home because I could always go mow. I could always do the dishes. There's always stuff to do.
Something to do, yeah.
The TV's right there. So, over my time, I used to watch a lot of TV, used to do this. Now, I used to, never read books. Now it's more about, I'm reading John Maxwell's new books on 16 key things for his communicators as a leader. Yeah. But that's not, everybody didn't like to read. I didn't, but now I'm kind of more into that of trying to improve myself as a leader. So yeah, just managing that time can be big, and making sure, man, you're spending time. If you're married, you got kids, that's most important, spending time with God. I always carve out time in the morning. That's non-negotiable to just get in the Bible. So those are things that I do, that I just continue on trying to keep myself in check, try to stay organized through my planner, and make sure that I'm focused on the things that are going to matter the most. So
awesome, man. That is some good stuff. So like I said, we've been a little free flowing through everything. You've talked about a lot of stuff. We've talked about scheduling, having your core purpose and values within your business, all kinds of different things. Just recap for us really quick. What are, if you said the 5 most important things that you should know if you're starting a business, or the 5 things I wish I knew when I started out, what would it be?
Yeah, again, man, I would say, number 1 is, having a clear vision, clear purpose for your business, and good core values set up to hire to fire to what you're going to build your business. Have that good foundation of who you are. Number 2, I'd say be ready to work hard with very little reward when you get started, and just know what that's where having your clear purpose at the beginning, knowing here's where I'm going. There's going to be struggles, trials, and tribulations through it, but here's where I'm going, and then you can fight. It makes it easier to fight through those tough days, and you will have tough days. So just prepare for that. Embrace your mistakes as you go through it, because those mistakes become milestones that you can look back on. So something happens 5 years down the road, you'll be able to look back at that and be like, hey man, I got through that. God got me through that. So I know I can get through this milestone. What did you learn from those? And that's where having a good peer group of guys to go to, other business owners, faith guys that you can go to, bounce ideas off, look for encouragement. So you can take that and just keep conquering the next step that you got to do in your business. Also having good professionals to go to that are in your corner, whether it's legal, accounting, insurance guy, financial planners, all that stuff to help, go to as well for that professional advice that you need, and to do that sooner than later, whether you got money or not. There's guys out there willing to help. There's other business owners out there willing to help. Go talk to them, ask them who they can refer you to. And that's probably the best thing out of that. And just know your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Hire to those. So if you're not good at something, be humble and say that. Know that. There's a lot of, personality things you can do out there. Again, I mentioned Working Genius, and there's a bunch of other ones, but I love that one. But to know what you're good at, what you love to do, because if you're always doing what you don't love to do, you're going to burn yourself out. And then again, that kind of goes into the scheduling aspect. Make sure you know what your priorities are, schedule those to it. You don't want to start a business to sacrifice your wife and your kids. That's who we're working for, but, scheduling time with them, and keeping your spouse involved if you are married. That's one of the worst things you can do, is not include them in your business, because, man, they're your number one, your wife's your number one, your support group, or your husband if you're a woman in business.
Yeah.
So make sure that they're on your page. They're going to be in your corner. Don't hide anything from them, because it's not going to be good on your marriage. So yeah, just continue to have that core group around you. Those are the things for me, looking back, that were the core things. There's a million other things that I've learned throughout this, but yeah, I know it's been fun. It's exciting, starting your own business. So it is nice to wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and be like, all right, man, it's up to you. What are we going to do? So, and then just surround yourself with people that are going to help lift you up and run with you for your purpose in your business.
Awesome, man. Come on. So much value in this entire thing for younger people, for older people, whoever it is, no matter if you're 15, 25, or 50 and starting your own business. These are some of the key things that you should know going into it, right? You talked a lot about, man, even was it your brother-in-law, right? Or got to see the mistakes that you made and how much that helped him out, right? Yeah. And so for people out there, man, get around someone who makes you better, learn from those around you who have been there, done it, and are crushing it, and continue to get better every single day and keep learning, right? So Will, thanks so much for sitting down, man. Episode 2 in the books. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.